Today's video is supported by Rockform. I'll tell you more about them at the end of the video.
Oh, I'm ascending.
You really are today, man.
I'm ascending. Welcome to Torquesville, partner. We're going to the 1275 kit. Spite, we're doing it.
Yes, finally. This is like the mod to end all mods on the 883. It's the one every 883 owner says they're gonna do next week, but we've got it. We're gonna do it. And I'm gonna walk you through all the stuff in here because boy, oh boy, is there a lot we have to do.
I want to, because I don't even know what half of this stuff is, so I'm curious to see it.
Yeah, we're gonna be in here for probably the next, I don't know, 15-ish hours wrenching on this bike.
Yep, Spite and I are camping out in here. We got snacks, got our jammies.
Oh yeah, absolutely. A little sleepover.
We're gonna live stream it like they do with like the otter cams in the zoo. You know, we're just gonna be chilling in there.
This is gonna be a big one.
Yeah, right, Spite. Walk me through all these parts, please.
Okay, so there's a lot on this table and there's a lot to go through. So when you get this product, this entire kit from Hammer Performance, you get so much stuff in here. So we're starting with new jugs. So these actually are going to replace and bore out the amount of surface area inside. They're increasing the volume by about 400 cc's, 450 cc's. But we're not stopping there because we have fresh heads with bigger valves.
Beautiful.
So we're gonna be moving a lot more air and fuel in and out of the motorcycle. And then we're not stopping there, but we have a set of 560 cams, which these are going to be sufficient to put down about 100 horsepower when we're all said and done.
Now, is that at the wheel or is that crank?
That's gonna be at the crank.
Okay.
So it's gonna be a little bit less when it gets to the wheel, but it's still going to be a significant difference.
It's a big upgrade over our current setup, which is like, what, 50 horsepower?
Yeah, tops? About 50 is what the iron makes at the crank. And then we also have the DynoJet Power Vision, which this is how we're going to tune the motorcycle. We actually have a separate cable because we have a CAN bus motorcycle, and this is a J1850 cable, so we need to wait for that to get in tomorrow. We're going to put in a new clutch, which is over there, but we need to have a new clutch because we're putting down so much power that the stock plates will just get torn to shreds. So this is our fresh clutch pack. It's a Energy One Performance clutch. There's a new set of gaskets, new set of spark plugs, fresh push rods, because this is a push rod engine still. And then as we move over here, we're going to need to do fresh oil and fresh transmission fluid. And so we've got all sorts of official Harley Davidson synthetic Screamin' Eagle performance oil in there. And then
let me see these ingredients really quick. Okay, got some oil, butt rock solos, hell yeah, brother, get that torque. Interesting.
Yep.
Okay, I didn't know it was on there. Okay, got it.
And then finishing it out, we have my favorite part of this.
Oh, that's pretty.
This Vance & Hines Comp S system, full system that we're putting on.
Wow, look at it.
And I love this in the brushed stainless finish. It is going to turn a beautiful gold.
Looks awesome.
And this is going to scream. I'm actually bringing a baffle from home because I've had this system on 2 or 3 different bikes now, and we're actually gonna wanna put a baffle in when we're all said and done because it's gonna be so loud.
Absolutely.
But that's kind of the top-down view of what we're doing. We're gonna have the YouTube instructions up. We're gonna have the handwritten instructions up. We're gonna be going slow because there's a lot of places when we're doing this where if we goof up, we'll grenade the engine.
Yep.
So it's just going to be a slow, thoughtful, meticulous process going through all of this, and nothing to it but to do it, man.
Absolutely, and big shout out to Hammer Performance for sending this kit over to us now. They didn't send it to us for free, but they gave us an awesome discount. And hit the link down below if you've got a Harley or anything like that. They're kind of like the industry leader for making awesome hopped up Harleys. So yeah, nothing to it but to do it. Like you said, let's rip into it.
Let's dive in.
Alrighty guys, we are breaking into the Harley Spite. What's the first couple things we gotta do?
So the first thing we needed to do was to take the stock mufflers off, which we did off camera, and we took the seat off as well. The next thing we're doing is we're actually taking the gas tank off, which the overflow came down here. Now there's a wire for the fuel pump that goes into this little thingamajig here, which is held in place by the most frustratingly long bolt where we can't actually get a full wrench in. Then once we do that, we are going to start by removing the air cleaner on the other side, the headers. We need to remove the intake manifold here. Then the heads come off. So it's just slowly pulling pieces off this motorcycle until it's ready to go.
We are gonna get to the point where we are down to literally the studs over here at the bottom of the engine.
We're going deeper than that, man.
Are we really?
Yeah, we're gonna need to drain all the oil at one point here too. So we're going into the cam box, which is very far into a motorcycle. So, and we're gonna go into here too, because we gotta do the clutch.
Sweet, let's keep going. The most important part to any Harley build is to eat falafel. I'm actually gonna work. I'm just super hungry.
It is a little hard.
Yeah.
That's a Sportster intake manifold. So this is where the gas goes into the heads. So now we've got the exhaust off, we've got the intake manifold off, we've got the gas tank off. Now we get into the heads. We're at the point of no return now. Once we start taking this stuff apart,
that's it.
It's game time, baby. All right, guys, so we have the engine basically at the point where we're ready to get into it. Now we need to get the oil out because this bike was in service before. So we need to pop the oil out of the bike, and that's including the primary and transmission fluid. So we gotta get everything drained out. We've got replacement stuff. And then once we do that, we're going to start getting into the rocker boxes. So get the oil out of this bike. Alrighty guys, so we are emptying the bike of oil. I should have done it earlier when it was warm, when I could have warmed it up, but that just means that there's gonna be a little extra oil in the engine, which is fine. It means that as we're pulling it apart, we're gonna have to keep oil pans underneath it, but it is done draining out of the oil tank. I need to take the filter off, and then I need to drain the primary, which on Harleys is different because reasons. Alrighty guys, so we very carefully removed the rocker boxes on this motorcycle because these are under spring tension from the valve, and if you don't back these bolts off here like less than a quarter of a turn to a quarter of a turn at a time, you can actually bend and break stuff up here, so go really careful and slow.
It's how to commit die.
Yeah, no, this is death by Sportster if you go too quickly on this. So we went slow, and now we're actually getting to the point where we take the heads off and then the jugs off, and then the top end is completely disassembled.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Alrighty guys, we've removed the head. We're getting there. All the heads are coming off of this Sportster. Spike, look at the difference in these two.
Yeah, so this is the one that we just pulled off of the bike, and that's the one that's going in. And there's a couple of differences you can tell. First of all, this is burned up pretty good from miles on the road, and this one's brand spanking new, but you can also tell there's a difference in the valve sizes. So this is gonna move a lot more air and a lot more exhaust out. And we'll also show you the difference in the pistons, which is also very substantial.
Yeah, I just love how precision machine this is. It's really nice.
Yeah.
Really beautiful.
And it's not covered in oil yet, which is all dribbling all down my hands.
Yeah, let's show the piston off.
Let's do it. Alrighty guys, so just wanted to show you the difference in the piston geometry because you can tell this is the stock Harley head and there's not much going on. It's very flat. There's a little bit of relief cut for the existing valves, but you look at our 100 horsepower piston heads here and it is night and day. They're half domed. There's a big depression either side for the valves, which are going to be moving quite a bit. You can really tell that this is a performance piston. It's going to push a lot of power.
Just looks awesome. You can also see the difference in size too. See that?
Yeah, they're
way
just
wider
so
diameter.
much more significant.
And it's funny too, you know, we talk about, you know, a 1200 or 1275 being like a big engine, but you look at just the difference in piston sizes, it's not that much more.
No, it really isn't. And we're only talking a matter of 400-ish cubic centimeters.
Yeah, but it makes a huge difference in torque.
Huge difference in power, absolutely. Yeah. Well, let's get this other head off and then we need to get in and get the cams out because
we're not there yet.
We're not there yet. We need to get the piston heads off, get the cams out,
There's the clutch
and then get the clutch out. We got to keep going. There's a long way to go.
Keep turning it down. Let's do it. Spite, where'd our engine go? What's happening?
Yeah, no, if you look in here, there's a little bit missing right here. It's
There's not even any more pistons.
Yeah, it's kind of all on the table. You can see the connecting rods are there, but nothing else. So what we need to do now is we need to get these push rod cover things off because we're gonna need to get the lifters out for the cams, and then we need to take this cover off here. That's just gonna splooge oil everywhere because there's definitely a lot of oil in there. And we're gonna need to take the oil pump off as well.
And the clutch.
And the clutch, that's coming later.
But not yet, but we need to do it.
Yeah.
But my God.
So it's just one more thing, and one more thing. And then there's probably gonna be some other stuff that we gotta do, but we're moving forward.
Today it's just tear down, so we got this.
Yeah, we're almost completely torn down.
Yeah, let's do it. Alrighty guys, as you can tell, we have thoroughly stripped this motorcycle down. Spite, you wanna break it down for us?
Yeah, sure. So what we ended up doing here, this is what's called the cam box, right? So the cams on a Harley are underneath the cylinders where normally they're up top. So you actually have to get to the underside of the engine and pull the cams out. And that's what these guys are. They're big gear-driven cams. And we have a new set of 560s that are gonna go in. We already checked. These things are all chamfered on the inside. We have clearance for the cams. I checked all of them when we had the pinion gear off. This pinion gear is now torqued to oblivion and back. The Hammer Performance guys said 80 foot-pounds with red Loctite.
It ain't going nowhere.
So it ain't going nowhere.
That pinion gear was kind of a bitch to get out though, wasn't it?
Yeah, so what we ended up having to do with the pinion gear, because we didn't have a pinion gear removing tool, is literally just take a screwdriver and a hammer and go wailing on it, and eventually the pinion gear just kind of shot off. And we replaced the oil pump drive gear with a bronze one, which is apparently better, it's stronger. And now what we need to do is we need to start rebuilding this engine. We're actually, be honest, we're not that far from being done, really.
It's just gonna take careful reassembly and then careful kind of plumbing back together. But
there's a lot of measurements we have to do, especially when we start getting everything put back together. We need to make sure we have the right clearances.
Yeah.
But really, this was kind of the biggest part of this job. Yeah. So I'm excited.
So now, since it is 9 p.m. at night, we're all gonna go to sleep and then we're gonna come back and continue. So good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.
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 All right, everybody, welcome to day 2 of the Sportster build. It seems like Spike got his hands dirty over here. You got us KTM-approved orange Power Parts gloves, which is great. And it looks like you got your hands dirty a little bit while I was gone. Tell me what's going on over here.
Yeah, so basically what I wanted to do, and I wanted to do this off camera because I really needed to focus on it, this is the cams for the engine. Now, the cams, normally you think they're on top, like I said yesterday. But on the Harley, they're driven underneath. They're gear-driven cams that use push rods to push the valves that are up here. Now what I had to do is I had to go in and time every single gear off the pinion gear here, and that is a really fiddly process, and you need to get it exactly right or you blow the engine up. This is, even one tooth will cause you to smack the piston into the valves and it'll blow the engine up. Just really take the time, focus on what you're doing, and that's what I did here. I'm very positive that we have it on the proper timing. I checked, I double checked, I rechecked, and again, fingers crossed, but I'm very confident that we have the right setup here.
Yeah, big shout out to Hammer Dan on YouTube as well from Hammer Performance for having such ridiculously detailed videos for us to look at. We've been referencing his videos very often, and he also said it's just like, you'll basically just blow up the engine if you do that part wrong. So we did it very carefully. But now, it seems like we're gonna put this case cover back on, right?
Yep, and then we start building back up.
And then building it back up, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Alrighty guys, we have the jugs in place. Spike, was that hard or what?
Yeah, so it's not difficult, right? What you're doing is simple, right? You're putting the jug on and you're seating the wrist pin on the piston to the crank rod, or the connecting rod, but there's a little C-clip, which we have somewhere in here from the original, and it's this little itty-bitty piece of metal, and it is so hard to get seated in the piston. There's a little groove that holds the wrist pin in place.
I stabbed myself for a good trying to put it on there.
Yeah, and that's a real pain. You gotta go slow and make sure you're not marring the pistons or anything like that. But we have them seated, they're set up. Now we need to do the squish band clearance check, and then we put the top end back on this engine and we start reassembling the rest of it. We should be, I don't wanna say it, but I feel like we're getting close to over the hump on this, honestly.
I think so too, yeah. And the most important part that we're not gonna do from now on is forget our gaskets. Everything is gaskets.
I actually had to pull the rear jug off because we forgot to put the gasket between the jug and the engine base. So yeah, that was great.
That was awesome.
Had to pull the C-clamp out and then put it back in. That was a lot of fun.
C-clamp's so nice, gotta do it twice, right? We're gonna keep going.
Alrighty guys, so what we ended up doing here, we just had to do what's called a squish band check, and that's the clearance between the head and the top of the combustion chamber. Now, that's a super important thing to make sure we're not gonna cause the piston head to slam into the top of the combustion chamber or hit valves or anything like that. Turns out both of our cylinders are in spec, and if you wanna come in here, there's actually, you can see these pistons moving, and it is super duper cool. And so now, finishing things out, we're going to move on to final assembly. We're putting the heads on, we're putting the push rods back in, push rod covers back in, and then, assuming everything looks good, we move on to the rocker boxes. So we're good, we're closing in. Alrighty guys, so a little bit of an update on all of this, and we got the rocker box set up here, and one of the coolest things about this whole project was I got stuck on the rocker boxes because I was assuming that I was on the proper stroke. I thought I was on compression, turns out I was on overlap, but what I ended up doing was just calling Hammer Performance on the phone, and literally it rang a couple of times, and I was talking to a guy, Alex from Hammer Performance, just working with me on finding the right spot and making sure all the clearances were good. Never worked directly with somebody who has such, you know, knowledge right away. It's actually really kind of cool, first time that's happened with me when I've been working on a bike. You know, I've worked with other companies and gone through phone trees and stuff. This is literally, I call him up and he goes, hey, this is Hammer Performance, what do you need? and we got the problem solved. And then another thing I wanted to shout out was actually my rock form case. This has been coming in handy here. It is literally just sucked right to the back of this bike, and I've got a Hammer Performance how-to video going while I'm doing all of this. It's making my life a lot easier because I don't have to hold my phone with greasy hands, and it's literally right here while I'm working. So it's really easy to reference. And you know, if you thought rock form was just a phone mount for your handlebars, it's actually really useful while we're working on the motorcycle, which is pretty cool.
Alrighty guys, this is gonna wrap up day 2 of us working on this motorcycle and finishing up this episode. Tune in for the next one, and we're hopefully gonna start this thing up.
Yeah, we just need to put the top end of the rocker box covers on. We need to put the exhaust manifold, or the intake manifold back in, our new air cleaner, new exhaust, get the tune.
Clutch, gas tank back on, plumb everything. The more I talk, the worse it's getting in my mind, but we're gonna get it done.
It'll get done.
We're gonna get this done. Tune in for the next episode. We're gonna start it up. This thing's gonna be awesome, and then we're gonna get a base map on it, and then hopefully rip some fat burnouts with it, which I think it's gonna do it no problem.
Yeah.
So, see you next time. Hey, you adorable little squid. Thanks for watching the video. Why don't you click on this one right here and keep watching? Don't worry, I'll wait. Just like this. Click the video. Do it now.